Alright, D2468-6. I want you to start from the beginning. What really happened?
I really don't like to talk about it, but I don't think I have a choice. Try to put yourself in my shoes, and I guarantee you wouldn't want to talk about it either. Imagine waking up to a brand new day, everything seemed in place. You get up from bed, performed your regular morning routines before heading out to work. But on your way to the bus station, you heard a child screaming for help in an alleyway you haven't noticed before until now. Not many people was around you to call for help, and from the intensity of the screams, it seemed like the child needed help fast. Gathering up the courage, you ran into the alleyway towards the direction of the screams, where you noticed a little girl, probably between the ages of 9 and 10, on the floor. You looked around but didn't see anything or anyone. So your first assumption was whatever made the child scream probably ran away when it heard you coming. Now, facing the child, you slowly approach her while saying soothing words to calm her down. But before you could even get close to the little girl, you found yourself lifted up in the air along with the girl. Confused at what was happening, you try to fight your way through this strange force lifting you up. But then the panic kicks in when you notice your body was dematerializing. You scream for help, but no one was even remotely near the area to hear you scream.
This was an interview session between an SCP Foundation researcher, Dr. Sanford, and D2468-6, a woman formerly known as Ms. Betty Gregos. Everything she said in that interview actually happened, and the entity she came in contact with is regarded to the Foundation as SCP-2468, or the Wounded Child as she is formally known as. You may be wondering how she survived or what happened to her afterwards, and yes, there is more to the interview, but that's something for later. I believe before we get there, you need to first know what this SCP entity is all about. Actually, despite being or resembling a human child, SCP-2468 is more of a phenomenon than a subject. The subject belongs to the Keter class, but due to its nature, the containment procedures used are very special, and here's why. Basically, SCP-2468 has a tendency to relocate from wherever it was last seen to wherever it wants, and because of this random mobility, it is actually impossible to fully contain this phenomenon. However, in the event that the wounded child does relocate, the Foundation containment team has been on the ground to both lock down and quarantine the location, whilst providing a cover story in the likely case that the location has a lot of human activity. Once the team has successfully quarantined the location, a minimum mass of either raw, fresh meat, roughly 55 kilograms in weight, must be brought to SCP-2468's area of effect at least once a week starting from the day it was located. This practice is done solely to maximize the phenomenon's time within the locked zone. Containment teams were also instructed to immediately report a potential relocation by SCP-2468. As I said earlier, SCP-2468 is an entity bearing the same resemblance with a human child between the ages of 9 and 10. The child's appearance changes consistently but always maintains wounds and injuries of different sources, the most common of which includes strangulation, blunt cranial trauma, and bruises of varying severity. The entity always has a tendency to appear in a very populated yet semi-open areas, including urban parks and town squares. Oftentimes, according to records, the wounded child also shows a tendency to revisit places which had yielded successful results. However, despite constantly changing locations, the entity's behavior still remains the same. According to Foundation reports, the entity takes a fetal position on the floor while requests for help in several languages like English, Spanish, Russian, Swahili, Hebrew, and German, according to its location. During this time, if an organic object were to reach within a distance of 35 centimeters from the wounded child, they are immediately lifted up by an unknown force of a height of approximately 2 meters and completely dematerialized along with the wounded child. After roughly 2 minutes prior to this dematerialization, the entity returns to the same area. During this time, all tests done on the area showed no signs of anomalous properties. Further testing also showed that SCP-2468 disables all electronic devices within the area. D-Class employees strapped with GPS trackers and wireless cameras were also used to get a general understanding of the entity, but the devices were disabled upon dematerializing. Although the Foundation did retrieve some of the electronics, they all showed signs of water damage, even the waterproof cameras. SCP-2468 was reported to be responsible for the disappearance of over 16 individuals ever since its discovery, 4 of which were lucky enough to return. Reports have it that all 4 returnees had a mass of 55 kilograms or less prior to their disappearance. They were found in a catatonic state, and sadly 2 of them died before they could even be questioned. That being said, it is pretty weird that SCP-2468 accepts any type of meat with a mass above 55 kilograms, despite being intended to only capture humans. But I guess it does make sense in a way. Funny enough, the entity appears to be picky with its meals. For example, raw and fresh meat keeps the entity in the containment area longer than frozen, cooked, or expired meat. And of course, it only accepts meat with a mass above 55 kilograms. The entity was first cited by the SCP Foundation during a series of mysterious disappearances in the 1900s in a town somewhere in New York. Unfortunately, everything about this event was removed in all records of the Foundation's archives, so I went to the best source of past information, the internet, where I searched for everything I could find on mysterious disappearances in the 1900s in New York. Initially, I almost didn't see anything, but after searching further, I found a newspaper page posted by a man under the alias Mysterious Sam. The newspaper post talked about how a homeless woman mysteriously vanished from thin air in the presence of several people upon approaching a child. And from the label, it looked like it happened in the year 1990 in Adams, New York. My best guess is that the Foundation found and treated everyone who witnessed the disappearance with Class B anesthetics. There is also the possibility that the newspaper never got published, which also begs the question as to where Mysterious Sam got a copy in the first place, or where the person got these other posts on SCP subjects and their sightings. My informant claims Mysterious Sam might be a decoy account used by the Foundation to attract and capture people of like minds before cleaning their minds, but I believe it might actually be a legit person trying to expose these secrets, but who knows. Back to the topic at hand, if you recall from the beginning of this video or midway through it, then obviously you know that people have survived this death trap despite it being a Keter class. And yes, the phenomenon is actually a death trap, at least according to D-2468-6 story. Apparently, the wounded child is nothing but a bait controlled by entities in another world or dimension. From D-2468-6 revelation, after the encounter with the wounded child, she woke up in what looked like water with a giant hook lodged in her cheeks. As she struggled to breathe inside what looked like water, she got pulled out of the substance by 3 giant fish entities. According to D-2468-6, these fish entities all had hands and legs with orange scales around their body. The entities also seemed capable of speaking proper English amongst a multitude of other weird noises. However, the only thing D-2468-6 heard them say was the phrase, "It ain't got no meat on it." Shortly after saying that, the entities tossed her back into the water-like substance before she was found by Foundation operatives. At first, I found D-2468-6 story to be a bit unlikely. I even considered it a bit ironic, a world where fish go hunting for humans. Hard not to laugh. But after taking several things into consideration, I decided to believe it, because it does explain the constant relocation and the water damages done on the electronic devices attached to D-Class employees. Dr. Nijin even attempted communicating with these entities by attaching stainless steel plates with messages on the mass of meat, but all 3 messages were rejected, and these messages seem to have provoked a relocation from SCP-2468 to its current location somewhere in Ohio. I guess the fish just didn't like answering stupid questions or talking to their food. Either way, the questions did affect their actions. Although I have decided to believe D-2468-6 story, some things still don't make sense to me. How exactly do these entities have easy access to our world, and how are they able to spot populated areas? For these questions, I do have some hypotheses. The first being that our universe might just be one giant pond for greater beings, and the other has to do with the substance D-2468-6 came from. Chances are it was some kind of interdimensional portal between the fish reality and ours. Another possibility is that the portal might actually be an anomalous river river or lake on Earth, and the fish people she saw were humans making use of this phenomenon. However, this part doesn't explain the constant demand for a specific mass of organic matter. All three of these hypotheses seem likely, but I am leaning more towards the second. For one thing, it explains the fish world properly. However, I would still like to give more thoughts on the third hypothesis as well. So I'll need your help. Is it possible that some of the fish sold worldwide are victims of SCP-2468? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel because I have a lot more videos coming your way. See you soon. Diva, where are you? I'm at the location. Okay, just hurry up. Jeez, you startled me. Well, what do you have for me? Yes. This is a good start. Thank you, Diva.